Hey guys, I'm Casey, and today I'm going to be teaching about Chapter 12, Influence, Power, and Politics. 12.1, Power, the definition and overview. Power is the capacity to influence the actions of others and is linked with leadership. Leaders have power for different reasons. In organizations, leaders are perceived as powerful for different reasons. Some of these reasons are because of their ability to give raises or bonuses, assign tasks, or hire/fire people. Power of leaders can also lie in professional or technical expertise. They could also have personal qualities that inspire others. Being aware of why you are influenced by someone else helps you recognize your own power, whether you want to accept the way the power is being used, and build on your own leadership skills to learn how to be a positive influence in your organization. However, there are different ways in which leaders can use their influence. An example of this is authoritarian leaders use power to force compliance, with transactional, transformational, and charismatic leaders use power to initiate shared goals, build meaningful relationships, and gain respect and esteem of others. Research has suggested that coercive power is a less effective method for gaining power, and that social intelligence, which is our ability to negotiate, resolve conflicts, and understand the goals of others, as well as group norms, is the key to moving up in hierarchies. We can conclude that depending on their psychological makeup, different types of leaders may exert their power to influence in different ways, which can lead to positive or negative outcomes. To understand the concept of power, we need to explore the underlying sources of power. There are two sources, organizational power and personal power. Organization power are organizations that are political structures that operate in a system for distributing power and authority among individuals. Depending on how power is used, it can lead to either positive or negative outcomes. These include legitimate power, which is a leader's officially sanctioned authority to ask others to do things. An example of this is how, in the military, operates in a hierarchical structure which places managers in positions of legitimate power. The second is reward power, which is the use of incentives to influence the actions of others. An example of this is a manager inspiring employees by promising them things like salary raises or promotions. The third is coercive power, which is the means by which a person controls the behavior of others through punishments, threats, or sanctions. An example of this is a manager firing or punishing an employee for violating policy norms. Personal power comes from within the individual and is independent of the position he or she holds in an organization. This includes expert power, which is the ability to influence the behavior of others through the possession of knowledge or expertise on which others depend. An example of this is a team working on a project and asking their leader, who has more previous knowledge of the task, for guidance. The next is referent power, which is the influence a leader gains over others when they desire to identify and be associated with him or her. An example of this is people naturally gravitating towards a leader who is fair and approachable. There are several different tactics one can use to influence others. The first is rational appeals, which is the use of logic, reason, and evidence to convince another person that cooperation in a task is worthwhile. The second is inspirational appeals, which is the use of emotions to raise enthusiasm for the task by appealing to the values and ideals of others. The third is upward appeals, which is the argument that the task has been requested by higher management or request to higher management to assist in gaining cooperation. The fourth is personal appeals, which are requests to cooperate on the basis of friendship or as a personal favor. The fifth is consolation, which is the offer of participation or consultation in the decision-making process. The sixth is exchange, which is the promise of rewards to persuade another person to cooperate. The seventh is coalition building, which is gathering the support of others as a reason for another person to agree to a request. The eighth is ingratiation, which is a strategy of winning favor and putting oneself in the good graces of others before making a request. The ninth, silent authority, influencing tactic that relies on unspoken but acknowledged power. The 10th, informational control, which is a hard influencing tactic in which key information is withheld in order to manipulate outcomes. And the final 11th one is assertiveness, which is the use of demands or threats to persuade someone to carry out a task. So, when employed successfully, influence tactics can motivate employees, help managers obtain support and resources, and instigate effort, commitment, and cooperation. The best way to choose the right tactic is to understand how people react to different forms of influence. The effectiveness of an influence tactic can be looked at through 3 different outcomes, which are commitment, compliance, and resistance. Commitment occurs when people are enthusiastic and fully in agreement with an action or decision and are motivated to put in extra effort to successfully reach a goal. This is the best influence tactic there is. Compliance occurs when people are indifferent to a task and make only the minimal effort necessary to complete a goal. And resistance takes place when people oppose the influencer request by refusing to do it or arguing against carrying out the task. This is the worst reaction to an influence tactic and causes bad feeling and distrust. In general, people tend to react better to soft rather than hard tactics. Soft tactics are more likely to result in commitment and are frequent choices of leaders with personal sources of power, such as expert or referent powers. In contrast, hard tactics are more likely to generate compliance or resistance and are used by leaders with a position power, such as legitimate reward or coercive power. Overall, the choice of the most suitable influence tactic depends on personal, organizational, and cultural values and can vary across cultures. Politics often elicit more negative than positive connotations. Politics exists wherever there is conflict and competition between employees that are trying to advance in their careers. Organizational politics is the behavior that is not formally sanctioned by the organization and that is focused on maximizing our self-interest, often at the expense of the organization or other employees. Why is organizational politics an inevitable part of working life? Well, there are two main factors at play: organizational factors and individual factors. Organizational factors people are more likely to engage in political behavior in organizations where resources such as monetary rewards or promotions are limited. An example of this is when a company lays off employees. It can fuel political behavior as employees compete for dwindling resources and rewards. Organizations going through periods of organizational change have more politically centered workforces as well. An example of this is rumored layoffs may use political tactics to ensure job safety. Finally, an organization's environment or culture is a good indicator of the extent of politics that exists in it. An example of this is an organization that puts extreme pressure to perform, competitions and politics will prevail. And even if your organization is highly political, the extent to which you engage in political behavior depends on your personality. An example of this is different people could have different desires for power, manipulation, and use of power, which can influence the level of politics that they use. There are different possible outcomes of political behavior. The vast majority of research suggests that organizational politics has negative effects, including increased strain and stress, higher organizational turnover, decreased job satisfaction and performance, lower morale, and reduced organizational commitment. However, politics can be used for positive means when people possess political skills, which is the ability to understand and influence others for the good of the organization. If someone is aiming for a promotion, it is important to network and take on profile projects in order to decrease visibility, which is others' awareness of your presence in an organization. Ultimately, your rewards, bonuses, and promotional prospects depend on the relationship you have with others. Overall, one can choose to stay out of politics altogether, but this can mean passed over for promotions and simply because people responsible for promotional decisions and rewards are unaware of your skills, talents, and contributions. Through this chapter, we have explored the role of power and politics and how it influences relationships in your organization. Thanks for watching.